Hi Pisces, happy full moon. So, I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to get emotional. But I apologize for your reading being so late. I have been dealing with some family issues. So, let's get on with it. For the past 3 weeks, you have sensed that a new phase is beginning. You've been organizing your work life. You've been opening up. Secrets have been coming out. It feels at times like the information is just pouring out of you, but it's also pouring out of everybody else. It's not the easiest thing to witness people divulge their saddest moments. It's not the easiest thing when people who are generally very quiet and private start to divulge all sorts of information that they don't mean to. It's a little bit embarrassing, secondhand embarrassment for them. When secrets start coming out and people start acting in a way that is not in line with their general character, it can make us want to grasp for what used to be, what made us comfortable. That old life, no matter how uncomfortable it was, it's familiar. Sometimes you fight so hard for something that you know you deserve, that you know is right, that somewhere in between the fight and the outcome, you start to wonder if it's worth it. You start to wonder if you should stop. Maybe you should just crawl back into that old familiar life with its pain and its agony and misunderstanding. But then Mercury retrograde comes along and knocks you back into your senses. It's time to organize everything. Part of organizing is realizing that this doesn't work. You can't hang on to what used to be. And tonight, as the full moon shines in your sign, you have that moment of revelation. The Virgo sun shines on the Pisces moon, and all that organizing, and all that sifting, and all those secrets, and all that arguing starts to make a little more sense. Those who would take from you, how do we find compassion for them? How can you have compassion for someone who has wronged you deeply? What place inside of yourself do you have to go? How deep do you have to dig to find that commonality with someone who's treated you worse than anyone's ever treated you? Is there a way to understand them? Is there some common thread of humanity between you and them? Can you, if you look back far enough into their life, find the seed, the cause of why they are the way they are and why they did what they did? And if you can, does it matter? Now, there are a lot of people who say, well, everybody has stuff happen to them. If we started forgiving people and understanding people, because they have pain like we do, well, we may never hold anyone accountable ever again. But within this compassion and understanding, there is an opportunity. There are certain battles that you cannot win. The best you can do is find common ground. The best you can do is compromise. How difficult is it to compromise with someone who doesn't deserve your kindness? How difficult is it to compromise with someone who you didn't even know until Venus moved into Scorpio was keeping such huge secrets from you? How do you feel compassion and understanding? How do you forgive someone who tried whatever they could to destroy what you have, or tried to just destroy you? You can find solace in many things, but my favorite is karma, divine law, balance. And as we are just a couple of days away from Libra season, let's talk about balance. No, you are under no obligation to be understanding. You are under no obligation when you're already so tired to offer someone the understanding they never gave you. But what if you do? What if you find it within yourself to look back far enough into their secrets and their lies and see that in their own way, they think they're right and that they're doing the right thing? It took me a really long time to realize that not a lot of people do things they think are wrong. I used to think when I was little that people knew things were wrong and did them anyway. And it always bothered me. Why would you intentionally hurt someone? Why would you intentionally steal from someone? Why would you gossip or lie? It's only now that I realize at 44 that generally people think they're doing the right thing, and they wouldn't be doing what they're doing unless they thought it was the right thing. Now that doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't in any way absolve them of the pain they've caused you, whether this pain is really far back or just happened a few days ago. They are still culpable for what they've done. But I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about you. Sure, there are people here who have regaled you with stories of security and love and promotion and money. They have told you long-winded tales of how it'll all go. And there is a price to pay for that. But what I'm asking is, can we be the bigger person? Can you can I? Can we find it somewhere on this magical night? Can we find it in ourselves, in the recesses, the deep recesses of our humanity? Can we find a way to understand? Maybe even forgive. Now, does that mean that you open yourself up to more betrayal or vitriol? No. Does it mean that you put yourself on the chopping block for others and those who certainly don't deserve it? No. But it does mean that you take a left off the warpath. You're not quite as insistent that they be completely destroyed. And they have given you reason. September has been so far filled with arguing, secrets, losing your balance, them losing their balance, financial conversations, financial abuse conversations, secrets that have come out that point to years of hurt. And you may find yourself wondering, how could you keep this from me for so long? How could you not tell me? How could you continue to betray me, steal from me, especially when I was holding on so tight? Why were you okay with making me so miserable? Or why were you so okay with pretending that you were happy when apparently you weren't? It's not the easiest thing in the world to see yourself in other people, especially people that you deem to be bad people. It's the hardest thing in the world to empathize with someone who had no empathy or sympathy for you. It's the most difficult thing to be kind to those who have not been kind to you, who have actively tried to do the very opposite. Those who have been cruel, those who have put their career in front of you, those who have lied, those who have led you down a path they had no intention of fulfilling. And here you are, feeling lost with all of this, and here I am saying, maybe you should take some responsibility for it. No, that's not what I'm saying. Having compassion, even for those who hurt us, is a very Christ-like thing. And as the fish represents, it is a very Christ-like existence that you lead, one filled with enormous self-sacrifice, infused with passion and compassion. This never-ending fight for what's right, but done in such a dreamy, beautiful, artistic way that most people don't even see you coming or see how dangerous you can really be. No, it's not you that's dangerous, it's your message. I have this fascinating book at home called Jesus Christ as a Political Figure. It's fantastic. It points out all the ways in which one person brought down an empire, one belief system, love. Love, which has all these different heads: forgiveness, compassion, empathy, loyalty, understanding. Hey, so what are you saying? I gotta be Christ-like? No, I'm saying you already are. I'm saying that you find yourself here at this full moon with a decision that has to be made. What will you do? Will you connect? Will you be gracious and confident enough to see that your understanding now in these situations, your forgiveness, it actually does the most for you? You are the one that will benefit from having lived through this maelstrom and still to present with an open heart. You're the one that wins if you decide that it's okay and that you're okay and that there's no need to go for blood. Yeah, but what if I want to? No, you don't. Even those among you who feel like you are piranhas and sharks know that if someone says the right words or gives you the right look, you can see right through them, straight into their heart. That's your power. And then what do you do with that? Here you are, you have your own concerns, your own pains, your own fears. People who have transgressed against you. Why should you have to be the bigger person just because you have that vision that cuts right through to the truth about people? Well, because you've been given that gift to hold, to wield, and nobody else has it. And the reason nobody else has it, as I've told you before, is because they would misuse it. They would take advantage. They would hurt people with it. Instead of bringing people together, they would isolate people. Instead of understanding, they would use it as a way to find their weaknesses and hit them right in the right spot. Now you can be that sniper if you want to. You do have the sight. But you can just as easily aspire to that Christ consciousness, that Christos, that crystal consciousness, the consciousness of ascension. And it's funny because ultimately, what does that belief system come down to? At its core, at its root, Christianity is a belief system based in forgiveness, in nonviolence, in pacifism, in kindness, in sympathy and empathy even for those who would kill you. And what is the message? That if you die with love in your heart, even for the one who murders you, your prize is resurrection and everlasting life. Now, those of you who are Pisceans and have been around longer than me, you're just nodding your head. You've figured this out already. And it was like breaking out of the simulation. Once you figure that out, there's no way this simulation can hold you. For the rest of us, especially those of us who have Mars, Venus, and a bunch of other stuff in their Vedic Pisces, it's a lifetime of learning. And that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to forgive everyone. But you can try. You don't have to empathize or try to find the root of what makes them who they are. It's not a way to excuse their behavior, but you don't have to try and understand them if you don't want to. But it'll save your life if you do. Because a life filled with grudges and anger, loss and despair, vindictiveness and vengeance, violence, it's not a life. Then you're just a part of the dirt. We want to be the thing that grows out of the dirt, the life. That's what you are. You're the life. You're that life source that we all come from and we all go back to. What did they say? The Alpha and the Omega. Don't forget it. And don't let anyone make you forget it. Do they deserve it? No. But look at it this way. You have done a lot of things for which you perhaps should not have been forgiven either. But you were. And if for no other reason, maybe you should do the same. Maybe we should do the same. I love you.
Hi Pisces, welcome to the second part of your reading. All right. So, that King of Cups, right before this retrograde starts, which is about 6 days from now, you're going to feel this need to make big moves. Don't make any big moves. Wait actually to make your big moves until after the 18th of October. But if you must make a move, then have it be after the 27th when the retrograde is started. Not the most conventional advice, but it's better than doing it between now and then. The next 6 days, no big moves. It is possible through your communication with others for you to lose your balance, for you to say too much. The sun is shining or was shining on the moon in your sign, and it has a tendency to let your secrets out, to make you say too much. And the things that you would end up saying too much about have to do, well, with things that you've kept hidden and very close to the chest for a long time. So it can even surprise you that secrets that you've kept pretty well for a long time just keep spilling out. Now, you've got to consider that perhaps you need to let those feelings out. Also here with the Five of Cups, one of the conversations that begins now and works its way into the middle of October is about financial abuse. You've got to look within yourself and figure out what it is that puts you in positions where you allow it. Of course, we can say it's the most common explanation being that Pisceans give too much, their hearts are too big, they're too generous. Not that I think any of those there should be a 2 in front of. But yeah, when you're an expansive person who has an incredibly obvious generous streak, you will attract people who see you as a target. Now, the most awful part about it is that they figure out pretty early that the easiest way to get to you, to turn you into a victim of financial abuse is to use romance and to use this kind of double-ended approach, this two-prong approach of providing love, romance, security, and protection. When you feel that mix, it's almost like you do a little calculation in your mind. Is the financial abuse worth it in exchange for the love and the romance and the protection? Now, that can be a pretty easy question to answer if you don't feel safe or if you're lonely. But is it the right answer? Is it worth it? See, because if someone needs money, that's one thing. But if someone refuses to do for themselves and expects to live off of what you do, now that's something else entirely. That's not needing help. That's cultivating a relationship with someone. So you don't need to do anything and they provide all the help, the nourishment, the bankrolling. Okay? Not the most pleasant of subjects to touch on, I'm aware. But if we're going to talk about this rebirth that's obviously come up, and it has to do with hidden factors, and those hidden factors do cause quite a lot of turmoil when these realizations hit you, then we have to talk about what the motivations are that make us a target. Another thing I talked about on the live yesterday was how pride can be such a strong, flashing red beacon to those who would want to abuse a person, who are looking for someone who they can abuse. And let me explain to you why. When you have an enormous amount of pride, the one thing that becomes very clear to anyone around you is that even if something bad happens, you're not going to say anything because you have too much pride to admit that either you were treated badly or that you didn't see it coming. That's especially difficult for you because you generally do see everything coming. So when you don't, it's that much more embarrassing for you. Now, is that a reason? Is your pride a reason to continue in a situation that is no good, especially a financial situation that is no good? No, it's not a good reason, but we're hardwired to portray this perfection. We don't make mistakes. We don't get swindled. We don't get bamboozled. We don't get abused. We don't get taken for a ride by someone who pretends to love us but only wants to use us for our money. That doesn't happen to us, especially not to Pisces, because we're psychic. We can see what's about to happen. We can read people a mile away. This will never happen to me. Oops, I think this is happening to me. Wait, I can't admit to this. I can't even admit it to myself, because if I admitted it to myself, wouldn't I have to rethink my entire identity now? Because I'm the person who's supposed to see it coming and I didn't. I'm the person who's supposed to be able to feel your feelings. And all I felt was this simulated emotion you were giving me of love or care or nurturing when really you were just using me for money. How come, if I'm such a good read of feelings, how come if I'm so empathetic and I can feel what other people feel, how come I didn't feel this person's real intentions? How have I allowed this for so long? And now that I have allowed this for so long, now I really can't get out of it, because now I'm going to have to explain how I ended up in this situation. My instincts didn't save me. My Pisces superpower didn't save me. But now I also have to explain why I stayed, even when I realized it. It's not just that I was swindled. I was swindled over and over and over again, and I knew it, and I kept going. These are the types of conversations that you're having with yourself, and it's very difficult, especially when you factor in the past. It's very, very difficult to wrap your head around. Now, add to that this idea that for the next few weeks, you're going to be focused, hyper focused on organizing your work life. And now you can see how these two things come together. Okay. Part of organizing your work life is getting rid of anybody who is not a mutually beneficial connection. Now, oftentimes you're rubbed the wrong way by that idea. You don't do things for people so people can do things for you. I get that. But that also doesn't mean you do things for people who never have any intention of doing for themselves. I'm not saying you should only do for people who can do something back for you, although in a relationship, it has to be that way. What I'm saying is that you have to draw a line between people who need help and people who would just rather outsource their life to somebody else and take all the credit. Because what ends up happening is it completely drains you. And you are having these moments for the next few weeks where you're thinking, that was a ploy. And I have been so intensely drained by it. I got played in this situation. Could be work, could be romance, could be both, but definitely money is a factor here. Now add to this that you have old debts, things that you thought you would never have to look at again, and they're coming up and they want to be dealt with, and you've got to first, when presented with this old debt, you've got to figure out why you didn't take care of it before. And this is not just me talking about, availability of funds. I mean, what was it that paralyzed you and kept you from doing the things that you know you have to do? I wouldn't be surprised if you follow that thread back long enough that you come up against the same things that you will realize when this idea of financial abuse starts to dawn on you. It's all related. Now, the Eight of Cups here is also speaking to the fact that after having the 3 weeks prior that you've had, you're exhausted. You're really, really tired. You go from being the king to being the page. You're drained. And once again, I would like to point out that there is nothing more draining than someone who expects you to do everything for them while they take all the credit. Let me ask you something, Pisces. How many different people's lives are you living for them? How many? How many people's lives are you living for them? And I don't mean to sound whatever, but what do you get for it? And don't tell me love. Don't tell me love, because loving somebody means that you don't take advantage of them. Yeah, but I love them. So then we have something deeper to talk about. If you love someone who is taking and taking and taking from you when they could be doing and doing and doing for themselves, why does that read like love to you? Because they tell you sweet things and they look nice and they can get in that secret sensuality door that can really get you hooked to somebody. Why? These are the questions the retrograde's going to bring up, and you've got to be honest. You've got to be honest about what you want moving forward, and you have to be honest about how tired you are from these dynamics and how you really can't do it anymore. For some of you, this may actually come down to something physical. When you're around certain people, you just feel so tired that after a while you decide, I don't think I can see that person anymore. But instead of one person one time, or that one person at the party who won't leave you alone, or what have you, it's become a trend in your life. You got to figure that out. Mercury retrograde helps you there. And it helps you in a way where you start to connect with people again, and you realize that, hey, even though I was super drained by all this, maybe it's great to start over again. But don't do this. Don't be all over the place. Don't be paralyzed by choice. Be decisive. Choose in your best interest. Let me say that again. Choose in your best interest and work from there. If during this retrograde, after you've had these epiphanies, you still naturally want to choose other people's happiness by sacrificing your own, things can get very hurtful, painful. But if you choose you and what's best for you in every situation, you got it. You got it. Now, what about all these secrets about other people that are coming out? What do you do with them, and how long are you going to hang on to that feeling? How long do we hang on to the grudges? How long do we hold on to the anger? How long do we hold on to the sense of betrayal? Because you may not realize it, but those are also drains. That also drains you. That actively disliking someone, hating someone, it actually drains you. So no more drains, and no more trying to patch up a hole in that boat only to have someone drill another hole in another place that they want you to patch up because they just can't do it for themselves. Remember that. Remember that they have put themselves where they are, and yet they expect you to get them out of it. Doesn't work that way. Because if you got, wherever you get, it's because of who you are. So if it's about who you are, things get sticky. Okay? So 9 of Pentacles it is. Be honest about being tired and drained. Be decisive, even during Mercury retrograde. And just know that even though you may feel a little bit watered down, ha ha ha, this is the time for new beginnings. And we love that for you. Happy equinox. I love you, love you, love you. All the links are below. The extended reading is up next. And I will see you in October. Bye.